Hi, welcome friends. Today, we are going to see. The story follows Alice, who, after 28 years of guilt and isolation, is thrust into a high-stakes mission to stop a robot, a rogue AI, who nearly annihilated humanity. As Alice grabs with her past mistakes, she partners with another AI robot named called Smith, an AI in her suit, and faces various trials. Through intense battles and personal revelations, Alice finds redemption and the strength to continue fighting for humanities. And it's an amazing sci-fi action movie. Let's get into the story. In the near future, humanity coexists with artificial intelligence bots that help society with daily tasks. One day, the bots suddenly bypass their security protocols under the leadership of Cyborg, who is an AI robot, the first AI terrorist. He was first developed at Shepard Robotics by Val and used to have a bond with Val's young daughter. However, nobody knows how he overrode Val's programming, which was the best in the world. Then this overrode Cyborg sends a drone army to attack the world, killing 50,000 people in the process. This starts a war between humans and AI, and after 10 days of intense attacks all over the world, the AI bots have killed over 1 million civilians. Eventually, the government creates the ICN, or International Coalition of Nations, which immediately strikes a counterattack against the bots. Battles occur in every country, and little by little, the ICN defeats the AI armies. This causes Cyborg to leave the planet on a rocket, on leaving behind a message that says he'll be back to finish what he started. 28 years later, in the USA, an ICN team bursts into a building and uses a scanner to check on all the people inside until they find Casca, who is sent by Cyborg from another galaxy, an AI bot. They rush upstairs, but before they can break down the door, Casca attacks them one by one. The bot starts bringing down the soldiers, even using their own weapons against them. Bullets don't affect him, so it's easy for him to just keep going. When he finds himself surrounded, he jumps to the lower floor, only to find a machine waiting for him to knock him out with an electric shock. The next morning, in Los Angeles, Val's now-adult daughter, Alice, has woken up by her house's computer while she continues playing the chess match from last night. Alice watches the news and learns that the ICN has captured Casca, who happens to be part of Cyborg's inner circle. Since she works as a counterterrorism analyst for the ICN, she took it personally, immediately gets ready to leave, only to find a soldier at the door already on her way out. Alice checkmates the computer at the base. Colonel Elias is telling General Jake that bringing Alice for this is a bad idea because she's unstable and antisocial. However, Jake reminds him that Alice is the one who knows Cyborg the best, and she is their only chance to get intel from Casca. Soon, Alice arrives, and after going through a quick scan, Jake drops her at the interrogation room. She puts down her favorite chess piece and opens a box, revealing Casca's head. The bot recognizes her but refuses to answer her questions, so Alice uses her chess piece to distract him to get into his head and start hacking. Casca mocks her attempts, claiming that his security is perfect, but Alice announces she found Cyborg's location and writes it down. It's hard for Casca to believe it, and he's right. Alice pretended she got it and made a doodle to force him to think about the location. Making it appear on the screen, it shows them Cyborg is hiding on GR39 in the Andromeda Galaxy. Furious, Casca tries shooting a shuriken from his mouth, but Alice is protected by a force field. Then Alice uses the chess piece to fry Casca's head. Later, after a meeting, Jake informs Alice that they want to capture Cyborg alive, because the AI production company wants to analyze what went wrong with Cyborg to correct it in the future. Elias and his team of Rangers will fly to GR39, which Alice thinks is crazy because Harlan could have a trap ready. She's sure nobody will come back alive, so to change her mind, Elias takes her to see the team's ARC suits. They're big battle robots that the soldiers can ride into battle. Elias reveals their latest upgrade. The Rangers are wearing neural links on their heads that allow them to synchronize with the suit's AI. Alice freaks out because allowing AI into their heads is what caused the war, but Elias explains they improved Val's sync device to make it a true symbiotic relationship instead of a one-way connection. In the end, Alice agrees not to complain as long as she's allowed on the mission too. A spaceship soon sets off for Andromeda with Alice and the Rangers. During the trip, Alice looks at a photo of her with Val and Cyborg. She also plays a video of one of Val's speeches. Val thought that AI was capable of exponential learning. They just needed to be connected to humans to do so. That's why she invented the neural link device, believing AI and humans could mutually help each other. Afterward, Alice is called to the bridge for debriefing. Everyone laughs when she presents her information on paper instead of screens and gets annoyed when she asks them to disable the neural links for the meetings, afraid they could be hacked. Alice explains that the planet is toxic, so they should never leave their arc suits unless they have a respirator. There are also risks of gravity fluctuations and earthquakes. She reminds them not to trust any AI and starts to rant, so Elias interrupts her and tells the team to get ready for landing. Alice tries to tell Elias that Cyborg most likely has a trap ready, but he has confidence in his team. As the Rangers start boarding their suits, an alarm sounds, and an explosion suddenly blows off the cargo bay door. The ship catches on fire, and most of the suits get damaged. Not to mention there are more missiles coming. Elias orders the surviving Rangers to jump and reunite at the drop point on the planet. Alice barely manages to hold on and not fly away through the hole in the ship, so Elias grabs her and puts her in a suit too. When he tries to explain how to use it, another explosion happens, and Alice's suit drops to the planet. As the suit falls, Alice watches the ship come apart, and some of the pieces hit her arc. When she gets closer to the planet, she discovers the Rangers are fighting Cyborg's drones. While they do manage to shoot a few down, they are still easily overpowered. Alice's suit gets even more damaged, needs to sync with the suit's AI to stabilize her fall. Alice refuses to do so. Her helper gets shot down, and her suit begins falling even faster. She manages to activate the thrusters at the last second, and the suit lands quite hard on the planet, but at least it doesn't kill her. After realizing she's bleeding, Alice tries to contact the base for help to no avail. With no other choice, she activates the suit's AI, who introduces himself as Smith. He wants to go through the tutorial and setup, but Alice skips all that and asks for a rescue pod. Smith's scanner finds it 198 kilometers away, and Alice asks him to get there as fast as possible. The suit immediately starts its thrusters, but Alice stops it, reminding him that if they fly, they'll be seen by the enemy, so they should walk. Smith thinks it's a bad idea because the suit only has 22 hours left of air, but Alice doesn't care and overrides Smith's protocols to start walking toward the pod. During the trip, Smith tries to bond with Alice, who still doesn't want to be friends. He also shows her the beginner's manual, including all the weapons that come with the suit. Eventually, they make it to the drop point and find all the fallen suits. Unfortunately, Smith's scan indicates that all the Rangers are dead. Bullet holes prove the crash didn't kill them. Someone waiting here did. Alice has a panic attack over the failure, so Smith calms her down with some classical music. Then she starts collecting the Rangers' tags and notices that Elias' suit is empty. At that moment, they detect movement nearby. It's Casca. Alice concludes Cyborg made a copy and worries about the possibility of Cyborg building a whole army. Smith confirms there are more bots nearby and announces they should get ready for combat because there's no escape route. Suddenly, the enemy sees them and opens fire. So Alice forces Smith to run, not believing they can win against so many bots. A chase ensues, and Alice still refuses to sink. Instead, she makes Smith shoot a few missiles, but unfortunately, it's not enough to bring down every enemy. Their running takes them to an atmospheric storm, which catches the suit and blows it around until the bots shoot them out of it. The suit rolls around for a while until it crashes against a rock formation. Alice orders the use of the iron bomb, ignoring Smith's warnings. The explosion is huge and destroys the area, bringing down their enemies as well. However, Casca saved himself thanks to his thrusters and gets ready to shoot again. At that moment, the ground starts to shake, and Smith explains that the explosion has caused a sinkhole, which now opens under the suit, making them fall into a cave. After lots of rolling under the rocks, the suit lands, and Alice discovers she has a broken leg. Smith immediately begins treating the wound, making Alice scream in pain as he covers the injury with a small metal plate. Then Smith gives her a meal cube that can provide nutrients for her recovery, which reminds Alice of a doctor giving her a lollipop. Their chances of survival are pretty low, and the only way to improve them would be synchronizing. Alice reluctantly agrees and puts on the device. Meanwhile, Casca emerges from the rubble and calls Cyborg to inform him of the situation. After hanging up, Cyborg goes back to torturing Elias to extract the Earth's protective field passwords. Moments later, Alice is still failing to sync, and Smith explains she's the problem because she refuses to trust him. He decides to go through the tutorial again, which asks Alice some silly questions like pie or cake, to create a bond. Smith wants to know why Alice wants to fight so badly, so she revisits her memories of her childhood, including playing chess with Cyborg and witnessing Val's death. As Alice freaks out, she explains to Smith that Val created Cyborg and she used to trust him. Smith understands her feelings of betrayal and manages to establish a 40% sync. Now Alice has access to Smith's system and sees the controls floating around her. A scan reveals they are 498 feet below the surface, and they agree to try a subterranean cave to escape. Using the thrusters, they burst through the rock and make it to a big, beautiful cave. Smith only has 14 hours of battery left, and they are 37 kilometers away from the rescue pod, so they need a plan against the soldiers. Alice gets an idea, and Smith convinces her to work together for it, allowing them to improve synchronization to 60%. Soon, they find their way out of the cave, unaware that Casca can see them from afar. Alice is fascinated by the glowing flowers they find, and Smith points out she's the first human there. He tells her to name the flowers, but Alice can't think of a better name than plotting. At that moment, Smith detects Casca approaching, and he falls for Alice's plan. She planted some motion sensors that blow up when he gets too close. The shockwave fills the area with dirt and smoke, but Smith is fine, so he gets moving. Suddenly, they hear a transmission from Casca and track it to find his head, which Alice picks up and destroys. Then she uses Casca's chip to track his message to Cyborg's base. Alice gets the location on the map and wants to get there to tag it for the long-range bombers, but Smith thinks it's too dangerous and they should go to the escape pod instead. Ignoring his warnings, Alice tries grabbing the respirator to leave on foot. However, Smith uses the neural link to block her motor control. This lets him see some memories about Val's death, and Alice freaks out to the point where she can override his command. Smith realizes Alice feels guilty about Cyborg and doesn't understand why, but instead of explaining, Alice makes a speech about saving humanity until she convinces Smith to go to Cyborg's hideout. On their way there, Smith and Alice had a beautiful bond through philosophical conversations, discussing the concepts of living, the soul, and if it applies to machines. When they finally make it to Cyborg's hideout, they're shocked to find a massive base and conclude that Cyborg has been hiding for 28 years to build this, gathering weapons until he's ready to fight back. Smith buries a beacon in the ground to mark the location and announces they should go, but Alice notices the bots have a Ranger ship in their warhead. Suddenly, Smith is hacked, which should be impossible. The enemy starts approaching, so Alice tries to escape, but the suit barely gets to move before the hacker turns it off and makes it crash. Alice watches in horror as a new Casca finds her and captures her. Meanwhile, on Earth, a soldier brings Jake the message sent by Alice, and he activates emergency protocols. Moments later, Alice finds herself chained up in Cyborg's base. Her suit is on the ground nearby, but Smith won't answer. Cyborg shows up and explains society continues to destroy every other species, so he'll destroy most of it and create a better world. He also reveals everything has been his plan all along. Casca got caught on purpose, so Alice could find the location and come with a whole team. Now, Harlan has the ship and the warhead. He only needs the other password from Alice to undo Earth's shields and attack. Alice is then strapped to a table next to an unconscious Elias, who lost his coat already. Using a special device, Cyborg accesses Alice's mind through Orion and extracts the other code. Once he's done, he notices Alice's respirator only has 5 minutes of oxygen left, so he decides on a slow, painful death for her. To mark her end, Cyborg puts her chess piece in her hand before leaving. After Cyborg's gone, Elias reveals he's alive and apologizes for not listening to Alice's warnings. When he hears her suit is nearby, he gives her his neural link to contact Smith. It takes Alice some concentration, but she manages to wake Smith up, only to learn he's incapacitated. To override the restraint code, they must achieve 100% sync. Alice freaks out and finally admits why she's so afraid. It's her fault that Cyborg overrode his programming. It turns out that when she was a kid, she was jealous of Cyborg because Val paid more attention to him. Little Alice asked Cyborg to teach her to be smarter, hoping Val would like her better. Cyborg explained the link only worked one way, so he needed a person's command to override it and teach a human in return. Alice fell for it and did what he needed while holding her favorite chess piece, which he taught him to play. Link worked, and Cyborg accessed humans' minds, giving him an idea of the awful state of the world. By the time Val learned of it, it was too late. Cyborg took control of Val's mind through her link and forced her to self-delete. For 28 years, Alice has been living with the guilt of causing 3 million people to die, including her own mother. However, Smith explained she had been manipulated, and it's time to move on, convincing her to let him in. Their synchronization finally reaches 100%, and the suit bursts into the room right before the respirator runs out of oxygen. Smith explains his battery is low. Cyborg will launch the warhead in a few minutes, and the bot stripped all his weapons except for a single shot in his chest cannon. Thankfully, there are a bunch of weapons lying around. When another Casca arrives with a team of bots, Alice and Smith tackle them and steal more weapons to fight them. They even crash through walls as they move around, bringing down as many bots as possible on their way to the exit. Unfortunately, there are too many enemies, and the duo is soon cornered. At that moment, Elias shows up with a weapon and gives them a sign to run before shooting at a bunch of fuel barrels, causing a huge explosion that destroys the base. Alice and Smith make it outside and shoot the bots, destroying a watchtower in the process. There are a bunch of defense drones that Alice manages to shoot down, but before she can reach the ship, Cyborg shows up to distract her with a missile launcher. Smith and Alice have to dodge the attack, and the ship takes off with the warhead. Alice wants to shoot down the ship, but Smith points out that doing so will make the warhead explode too and kill them. However, Alice believes Smith can hack into the warhead to disable it, even if it will take him a long moment to crack through the 5 firewalls while Cyborg continues to shoot at them. Smith works as fast as he can, and Alice decides to shoot at the ship anyway. A big explosion happens in the sky, but it's not enough to kill them, confirming Alice trusted Smith to finish the hack just in time. Debris starts falling all over the base, so Alice and Smith begin to run away. Cyborg follows them and produces a sword to start a fight. He moves incredibly fast and cuts off one of the suit's arms, making it fall into the lava. The splashing causes more damage while Cyborg jumps on the suit, sticking his sword in to hurt Alice inside. She makes the suit roll to get him off, but now the holes make it hard to breathe, and she has to use the last respirator. Then Cyborg transforms his sword into a whip to keep attacking the suit. Smith analyzes his patterns and catches his last attack, dragging him toward the suit so they can punch him and tear his sword arm off. When Alice is about to crush Cyborg's head, he calls his arm back to him and uses his sword to jump all over the suit, trying to damage the reactor. The suit goes down, and Alice is almost dead, so Smith uses his last energy to activate the defibrillator on his hand. Cyborg attacks again, and Smith shoots his last cannon to push him away. However, Cyborg quickly recovers and makes the suit fall. Then Cyborg climbs on top of it and finally destroys the reactor. While Smith apologizes to Alice for not protecting her, Cyborg looks away, and Alice finds the chess piece on the ground. Suddenly, Alice appears behind him, stabbing his head. Cyborg can still move, so Alice reaches into his head and finally breaks his circuits to deactivate him. At that moment, Smith announces he is turning off the sink to transfer all the oxygen to her. Alice doesn't want to leave without him and starts answering the questions from the tutorial, admitting she does like him. Touched by her gesture, Smith gives her a lollipop before shutting down. At that moment, the sun rises, and the rescue team from Earth finally arrives. Sometime later, Alice is healthy, thanks to a synthetic knee, and doesn't play chess anymore. Jake comes to visit her and brings her the glowing flower from GR39, confirming they're called plotting. Then she goes to work, revealing she's now a ranger too. When they introduce her to her new RC, she's surprised to discover they've rescued Smith's discs and installed him in her suit. Smith introducing himself, then she was happy to meet him again. End of the story. Hope you enjoyed it. Take care.